Hello everyone, it is me, eVill, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be covering the 10 largest animals alive, listed by their maximum weight and using reliable sources. Before we get into it, everything on this list lives in the ocean, and one specific group dominates this list: whales. And I don't think that is much of a spoiler to tell you. All 10 of the largest animals are whales. In fact, 9 of them are baleen whales. And since this video is basically about whales, I decided to give you their backstory shortly. Whales moved into the water around 50 million years ago, leaving behind their roots as even-toed ungulates, a group that includes giraffes, buffaloes, sheep, deer, antelopes, camels, pigs, and hippos. With hippos being the closest living relatives of cetaceans. This being the oldest known cetacean, Pachycetus from Pakistan. It looks very odd, like a mix between a crocodile and a pig. I included a video by Benji Thomas in the description if you're interested in knowing more about whale evolution. But now let's move on to the list. I don't want to bore you too much. In 10th place we find the bryde whale, or specifically the common bryde whale, with a weight of 25 tons and a length of 15.5 meters. It is found worldwide in tropical and subtropical oceans and feeds on small fish and krill, while only being naturally hunted by killer whales. This species has a lot of confusion about its relatives. It belongs to a species complex, a group of species that might be separate or just subspecies of the same animal. There are 4 different types of bryde whale and 2 closely related species that were previously thought to just be subspecies but that turned out to be their own species: the Omuras whale and the Rice's whale. It also looks very similar to the sei whale, which you might know about. But luckily you can identify the bryde whales from the ridges on top of their heads and their white underside. You see they have 3 ridges on top. Their species name is boring and undescriptive. Bryde was only some whaler that was leading whaling in South Africa, in colonial South Africa to be specific. So personally, I wouldn't really be naming a whale after this kind of dude, but you do you, I guess. In 9th place we find the Rice's whale with a weight of 27.2 tons and a length of at least 12.6 meters. Because there are less than 100 Rice's whales left, it is hard to know their true maximum length, and the 12.6 meters is just the longest one that is known. They are the second most endangered cetacean in the world, after the vaquita, and very few have been measured. They live only in the Gulf of Mexico, and in there the biggest threat on them is pollution. Specifically ship traffic and then oil spills. So if you thought USA didn't get oil spills, you were wrong. They are not immune to that. While outwardly identical to bryde whales, they can be identified thanks to their skeleton, genetics and behavior. And this is how the species was discovered. You see Rice's whales dive deep, feeding close to the bottom and rarely on the surface, separating them from the bryde whales that eat mostly on the surface. In 8th place we find the sei whales I mentioned before, with a maximum weight of 28 tons or 341 Americans and a length of 19.5 meters. And they are identifiable because they have only one ridge on their head. Sei whales are notable for being very fast thanks to their slender body, reaching speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour. So imagine going to swim and a thing that is 300 times larger than you just flies past you effortlessly. Sei whales feed by turning sideways and lunging forward with their mouths open. This is called lunge feeding. And because of that they need that speed to catch their prey, and of course to migrate after their prey, moving thousands of kilometers so that they can stay in their preferred temperatures and always with food available to them. The 7th largest animal is the familiar humpback whale, with a weight of 40 tons and a length of 17 meters. Humpbacks are very recognizable thanks to their long fins, frowning mouth that looks extremely depressed, and of course the humps on their backs. The guys who named those other whales need to take notes because this is how you name a whale. If you asked random people to pick a humpback whale from a random set of whales, they could all do it because they have humps on their backs. You cannot possibly pick anything else for a humpback whale, really. Humpback whales are very popular because they often breathe, jumping out of water completely, making a big impression on anyone watching animal videos online and making for a very scary display. One of their feeding strategies is also impressive. They trap their prey using bubble nets they make as a group effort and then launch up into a concentrated mass of calories. And what allows them to do this is that their flippers are so large, they can make sharp turns using them. And here is a video of a humpback whale accidentally eating a kayaker while it is using this hunting strategy. The kayaker was fine by the way, but maybe they were very badly traumatized. Their population plummeted because of whaling in the 1950s and before that, but they have rebounded since to a population of over 80,000 and growing. That is a lot lower than before whaling started, but still, good enough. Barely scraping 6th place we find the grey whale, with a weight of 45 tons and a length of 15 meters. So, they are shorter than the humpback or the sei whales, but they make up for it by being extra fat. Grey whales have another easily recognizable body plan. Firstly, they have got grey spots, but besides that, their mouths look really long and distinctive to me. This is because the grey whales feed in a different way compared to other baleen whales. They sift through the sediment at the bottom and eat random shit they find there, mostly crustaceans. Because of this, grey whales stick close to the coastline, because eating from the bottom isn't really possible in open ocean. Grey whales used to live in the Atlantic, but they went extinct at a really weird time, around 500 AD. Back then, they migrated between the Baltic and the Mediterranean, and it is thought that they went extinct at that time because they are uniquely vulnerable to whaling as they stick to the coastline. They were also extirpated from the Western Atlantic in the 1700s, also because of whaling, so now they only survive in the Pacific and sometimes in the Atlantic when they wander back in there. And thankfully in the Pacific their populations are healthy, so they are going to survive. In 5th place we find the sperm whale, the only non-baleen whale on this list. They grow to over 57 tons, which is comparable to 695 Americans and 20.7 meters long, making them the longest toothed predator and the largest animal with teeth. They are also the loudest animal on the planet and can dive 2 kilometers below the surface. Sperm whales also have the largest brain on the planet, and they are named after the spermaceti organ. They use the oil inside this organ to help focus sound for echolocation and to also help them with diving. And the reason why it is called the spermaceti is because someone made a bit of a mistake when they were identifying the white goo inside this whale. Their intestines are also the longest in the world at 300 meters long, and their stomachs have 4 parts. The first one functions basically as a armored death chamber, evolved to resist attacks from the prey that they swallowed whole. Ambergris is also taken from sperm whales and it is highly valued in perfumes. But I wonder if their customers would still use it if they know that it comes from the blocked intestines of a sperm whale. I will choose not to mention more about it here. Sperm whales also don't have upper teeth and their lower teeth aren't thought to be very important. They famously eat cephalopods like giant squid, and chewing them doesn't really help you. And the weirdness of the sperm whale does not end here, because their heads and blowholes are not symmetric. That is weird, but it helps with echolocation, as this makes the sound waves bounce differently when they hit a different side of their head. To cope with the massive pressure, the ribcage of the sperm whale also collapses in on itself, and their blood circulation can be redirected only to their integral organs when they get low on oxygen. And there is even more, but I need to keep on moving forward with the video. In 4th place we find the fin whale, with a weight of 81 tons and a length of 26 meters, making it the second longest vertebrate. With the numbers this big, it is easy to forget how truly giant these animals are. Just keep in mind that this thing weighs as much as 1000 Americans. My favorite standardized unit. Also, fin whales are close relatives of the blue whales. In fact, they can even hybridize. But it seems that their offspring can only reproduce with the blue whales, so there is no genetic flow from the blue whale to the fin whale, only the other way around. Interestingly, the fin whales are actually more closely related to humpback whales than the blue whales, and I just found that weird. Fin whales are found in all oceans and seas that aren't super shallow, and that means they are not found in the Baltic, unfortunately for me. Also, random thought, imagine if Greenland was still connected to Norway and then to North America. If you could drive from the southern tip of Africa all the way to the southern tip of South America, all the way through the Arctic. Like, that would be so cool. But back to the fin whale. They eat usual plankton like other baleen whales eat, and have a distinctive color, a type of dark grey that fades into white asymmetrically on their head. It is also thought that fin whales can live up to 140 years. But that doesn't make them the longest living whale, because we will get to that in a moment. And that's with the third largest animal in the world, the bowhead whale. And if you wonder why they are named like this, here is their skeleton. Bowhead whales can weigh up to 100 tons and grow up to 19 meters, but many claims of larger ones exist. They were previously confused with the right whales, but I don't know how that is possible because they look quite different to me. Bowhead whales are known to live up to at least 211 years old, with a potential maximum age of 268 years, making them the longest living mammals by quite a large margin. Because of this lifespan, they've been used for cancer research, as if their cells were human, they would be riddled with tumors even before they reach adulthood. Forget living to 200 years old. Their metabolism is relatively slow, and they spend most of their life in the Arctic, never going south of Greenland or the Sakhalin Peninsula. But this wasn't always the case, and in prehistory, their distribution used to reach all the way to Italy. There are about 10,000 bowheads left, and of course it is the same story with them as the other whales. Whaling reduced their number, but now that it is banned, they have somewhat recovered. People in Greenland and Canada still catch them, but just a few of them, so the population can handle it easily. I don't like it, but if it is done sustainably, and for a good reason, it is not the worst. The issue is that with commercial fishing and whaling, they are the opposite of sustainable. Like, I'm sure we have caused the extinction of many different fish species, and we didn't even bother discovering them before we took them to behind the barn, and I think that sucks. The second largest animals are the right whales, at over 100 tons and 19.8 meters, and potentially reaching 135 tons. It is very hard to put a definitive size, but the point is, they are the second biggest by a solid margin. I have decided to group all three species in one, as they are very similar in size and also lifestyle. So if you were wondering why Rice's whale and Bryde's whale made it on the list, it is because this is technically a top 12. And by the way, the whale shark takes the 13th spot, so it was very close to making this list. The North Pacific right whale, the Atlantic right whale, and the Southern right whale would be second, third and fourth on this list in some order, with Pacific right whales being likely the biggest. But anyway, they are all very endangered, so it's not very clear. There are 400 North Atlantic right whales, 350 North Pacific right whales, and about 13,000 Southern right whales. So basically, only the Southern right whales are doing okay. By the way, the reason why right whales are called that is because they were the whales that were targeted by whalers. So basically, when they caught the right whale, they just called them the right whales. At least, supposedly, that is the reason for their name. Right whales use a different type of AFK farming strategy compared to other baleen whales. They simply swim forward with their mouth open, in places with lots of zooplankton. And doing this, they need to eat millions of them every day to stay alive. So basically they are carnivores, but they do it by being ocean lawnmowers, and I don't know if I would personally define that as a carnivore. I mean, they are eating animals, so technically they are, but anyway, I mean, I don't know. The largest animal in the world is the blue whale, weighing up to 199 tons and growing to 31 meters, or possibly even 33. They are actually so big that they could be the largest animals to ever live, but personally I doubt that this is true. The largest accurately weighed blue whale is 173 tons, but they are obviously not weighed very often, and this is by no means the maximum limit for them. With an animal this big, you probably assumed that they are super rare, but in fact there are around 25,000 blue whales in the world, and before whaling it is thought that there would have been 350,000. With their numbers being that high, and them sometimes feeding in groups, it is very clear to me that this is not the actual maximum size that an animal can reach in the wild, and instead this is simply the largest that a blue whale gets, and I'm thinking that there would have been larger animals in the past. Blue whales do in fact look blue underwater, and they can be recognized from the thing in front of their blowhole. It is there so that they don't take in water while breathing, like an upside down nose. Like many other whales, the blue whales go to the Arctic in the summer and to the tropics in the winter, taking advantage of the seasonal changes. And they almost exclusively feed on krill that grow to about the size of the nail on my pinky finger. And yeah, they need to eat a lot of those krill to survive. Going over some records that they hold, they have the largest eyes, male things if you know what I mean, hearts, and lungs. And their heart is so large that it can slow down to 2 beats per minute. If a human heart got that slow, the human would be dying on the floor from a heart attack. Another reason why I think the blue whales are not at the maximum size limit is because they are endothermic and use energy to come up for air. Like, imagine fish, they are ectothermic and they don't need to come up for air. So theoretically, they would be using a lot less energy if they grew to the same size. There are a few fossils that might have rivaled the blue whale, but that is not certain. The Sastasaur ichthyosaurus from the Triassic and Perucetus colosseus from 40 million years ago. Only described last year in 2023 by the way. There is a huge bias against large fossils, because they rarely fossilize or survive to the modern day, because imagine you need 30 meters of the sea floor to stay completely undisturbed and to cover the entire fossil. Like, the chances for that happening is very low, and for example the Perucetus is known from just a few bones, even though it obviously was an entire animal. By the way, this is also why sauropods are always found in small pieces. We don't have many complete sauropod skeletons. We just need to piece them together based on the ones we have. And that's it for the video. I had to omit some stuff because I try to keep my videos watchable, editable and entertaining. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. Of course, leave a comment glazing the video, or if you disagreed with something, leave a respectful comment saying why you disagree. Just remember that there are many conflicting sources, and I know I have only skimmed the surface with my descriptions for these animals. Bye bye everyone, have a good day.